The signal arrived on a Tuesday. Dr. Alan Reed had been monitoring the deep space array for nearly a decade, cataloging the usual cosmic background noise that most would find tedious. But this was different. The patterns cycling across his screen defied natural explanation. "Director Patel," he called, voice wavering. "You need to see this." Within hours, the world's leading xenolinguists had confirmed what humanity had long suspected. We were not alone. But the message wasn't a greeting. It was a plea for help. The Novan civilization, situated 40 light-years from Earth in the Tau Ceti system, faced extinction. Their star had entered an unprecedented phase of instability, bathing their homeworld in increasingly lethal radiation. Their shields would fail within 2 Earth years. "They've tried everything," explained Dr. Maya Okafor as she briefed the United Nations Security Council. "The Novans are centuries ahead of us technologically, yet they've reached an impasse." The council chambers fell silent as the recording played. The translated voice sounded hollow, resigned. To any spacefaring civilization receiving this message, "We, the people of Nova, request assistance. Our models predict total extinction within 2 planetary cycles. Our attempts at evacuation and planetary shielding have proven insufficient. If your species possesses alternative approaches, we would be grateful for intervention." Defense Minister Ruiz leaned forward. "If they can't solve it with their advanced technology, what exactly do they expect us to do about it?" "Nothing," replied Dr. Okafor. "The message was broadcast in all directions. They don't even know we exist." "Then why are we discussing this?" asked a representative from Russia. Admiral Torres, head of Earth's modest interstellar fleet, cleared her throat. "Because we might actually have a solution they haven't considered." The chamber erupted in disbelief. "Our 12 vessels against a dying star? This isn't a movie, Admiral," scoffed the Chinese delegate. Torres activated a holographic display. "No, but it is physics. And sometimes, perspective matters more than technological advancement." Dr. Reed nodded. "The Novans appear to have approached this as an energy problem, trying to create stronger shields. But our analysis suggests a different angle entirely. What we lack in technology," added Torres, "we might make up for with approach. Humanity has always excelled at finding ways around problems we can't overcome directly." The UN Secretary-General stood. "You're suggesting we actually respond? Risk our limited fleet on an interstellar rescue mission for beings we've never met?" Dr. Okafor's expression remained resolute. "If the situations were reversed, wouldn't we hope someone would try?" In the days that followed, debates raged across Earth. News outlets flashed alarming headlines. Religious leaders contemplated cosmic implications. Scientists argued theoretical possibilities. But underneath it all ran a current of something uniquely human, a refusal to accept that anything was truly impossible. 3 weeks after receiving the signal, humanity sent its response. "People of Nova, we hear you. We're coming to help." Few believed it would work. Many called it foolish. But as the mission preparations accelerated, an unexpected sentiment spread across Earth. Pride. Whatever the outcome, humanity would not stand idle while another civilization perished. For the first time in history, Earth united behind a common purpose that transcended national interests. Not for conquest or resources, but to answer a call that no one expected them to hear, much less respond to. The impossible rescue mission had begun. The 12 ships of Earth's nascent interstellar fleet were never designed for this mission. Originally built for solar system exploration and the modest mining operations on Jupiter's moons, they lacked the sophisticated technology the mission required. But what humanity lacked in advanced equipment, they made up for in volunteers. Within days of the announcement, over 2 million people applied for the 84 crew positions. The selection committee worked tirelessly, seeking not just technical expertise, but also the peculiar human quality needed for this unprecedented venture: productive stubbornness. "We need people who don't understand when they're beaten," Admiral Torres explained during the final selection. "People who look at the impossible and see only a challenge." The core team assembled in Kenya's newly constructed Orbital Command Center reflected this philosophy. Leading the scientific division was Dr. Leon Novak, whose unorthodox theories on stellar mechanics had been dismissed by academia until now. engineering fell to Rin Tanaka, famous for repurposing obsolete technology in ways manufacturers had never intended. The Novans have been approaching this as an either-or proposition, Dr. Novak explained during mission briefing. Either strengthen their shields or evacuate. But our proposal suggests a third option they've overlooked. Tanaka nodded, manipulating the holographic model of the Novan star. Their technology is built on elegant, complex solutions. Sometimes the answer isn't more elegance. It's controlled chaos. The solution they proposed was quintessentially human, messy, improvisational, and deceptively simple. While the Novans had attempted to build stronger shields against their star's increased radiation, Earth's team suggested altering the radiation itself through targeted interventions at specific stellar coordinates. Like acupuncture for a star, was how Dr. Novak described it to the press. The retrofitting of Earth's fleet took 4 months of round-the-clock work. The ship's hulls were reinforced with the planet's entire reserve of rare Earth elements. Every non-essential system was stripped away to make room for the experimental stellar resonance devices that formed the core of humanity's plan. When the fleet assembled in high Earth orbit, ready for departure, news cameras captured the moment for posterity. The vessels looked crude compared to artistic renderings of what advanced alien ships might look like. Functional rather than elegant, practical rather than imposing. They look like tugboats going to rescue a cruise liner. One commentator observed. Admiral Torres, commanding from the lead ship Perseverance, heard the comment through her feed and smiled. "Tugboats get the job done," she replied. The night before departure, a rare moment of doubt surfaced during the final command briefing. What if we get there and they look at our ships, our technology, and simply laugh? Asked Communications Officer Diaz. Dr. Novak considered this. Then we'll smile and get to work anyway. We're not going to impress them with our tech. We know that. We're going to surprise them with our approach. Captain Marcus Lee, commanding the vessel Audacity, raised his glass of water in a toast. To humanity's first interstellar mission. Not for exploration, not for conquest, but because someone, somewhere, needed help. As the fleet engaged their fusion drives and began the long acceleration out of Earth's gravity well, billions watched. From below, schools had declared a holiday. Cities had organized viewing parties. For those moments, human conflict paused as the species collectively held its breath. The journey would take 11 months at maximum sustainable speed. No one knew if they would arrive in time. Space is not silent to those who know how to listen. As Earth's fleet pushed toward the Tau Ceti system, they gathered data that would have kept research institutions busy for decades under normal circumstances. But these weren't normal circumstances, and the 12 vessels had a singular focus that superseded scientific curiosity. 4 months into the journey, the retrofitted stellar resonance devices began showing signs of strain. Designed on Earth, tested only in simulations, the technology was humanity's best guess at controlling stellar behavior, a guess now being tested by the harsh reality of interstellar space. "We're seeing microfractures in the containment matrix," reported Tanaka during the daily briefing. "If this continues, we'll lose 3, maybe 4 units before arrival." Admiral Torres studied the projections. "The plan required all 12. Can we compensate?" "We'll have to," Tanaka replied simply, already sketching modifications on her tablet. "I'll need volunteers for spacewalks to reconfigure the external array." This became the pattern of the journey. Problem, improvisation, solution, repeat. Where more advanced civilizations might have relied on redundant systems or automated repairs, the human fleet adapted through constant innovation and acceptance of risk. The crew's transmissions back to Earth became a global obsession. Children played Novan Rescue in schoolyards. Universities adjusted their physics curricula to include theoretical stellar manipulation. Politicians who had initially opposed the mission now proudly claimed partial credit for its continued progress. 6 months in, the fleet encountered an unexpected radiation wave that damaged their long-range communications. For 11 days, Earth heard nothing, fearing the worst. When contact resumed, Admiral Torres reported the incident with characteristic understatement. "Had a small problem. Fixed it. Proceeding on schedule." The truth, as the crew logs later revealed, involved 38 hours of continuous emergency repairs, 3 near-fatal radiation exposures, and a complete reconfiguration of the. As they crossed the halfway point, another challenge emerged. The stellar resonance devices required precise calibration based on real-time data from the Novan star, data they were still too far away to collect with necessary accuracy. Dr. Novak proposed a solution that epitomized human adaptability. They would adjust the calibration en route, using iterative calculations and best-guess modeling until they were close enough for precision. "It's like trying to thread a needle while riding a bicycle," he admitted during a fleet-wide briefing. "But mathematically speaking, it's not impossible." "Not impossible is practically humanity's motto at this point," Captain Lee responded, generating much-needed laughter throughout the fleet. By month 9, the psychological strain began showing. The crew had trained for long-duration missions, but nothing could fully prepare them for the reality of hurtling through the void toward an alien civilization that might reject their help entirely. Dr. Mira Ellis, the fleet's chief psychologist, implemented what she called purpose reinforcement, daily reminders of what awaited if they succeeded, and what would happen if they failed. "Doubt is natural," she told the increasingly fatigued crews. "But doubt examined and moved past becomes resolve." In the final month, Tau Ceti became visible without telescopic enhancement, a bright point of light that grew daily. Spectroscopic analysis confirmed what they had feared. The star's instability had worsened since the initial Novan transmission. "We're not just on schedule," Torres informed Earth during what would be their final clear transmission before arrival. "We need to be ahead of schedule." The fleet pushed their engines beyond safety parameters, accelerating toward the increasingly unstable star. Systems overheated. Warning lights became so common they were eventually disabled to avoid distraction. As they approached the Novan system, a simple message was broadcast ahead of them in all frequencies and formats they could manage. "People of Nova, humanity has heard your call. We're approaching your system with a potential solution. Please respond with approach coordinates." Then they waited, hoping their message would reach a civilization still capable of answering. The Novan response came not as a transmission but as an escort. 3 vessels of unmistakably alien design appeared at the edge of the system, their hulls gleaming with a metallic substance that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. They moved with a fluid grace that made Earth's ships look clumsy by comparison. "They're scanning us," reported Officer Diaz, monitoring the communication systems thoroughly. Admiral Torres straightened her uniform. "Let them look. We have nothing to hide." The Novan ships maintained formation alongside the human fleet for 23 minutes before a transmission arrived. The voice spoke perfect English, clearly processed through some form of translation technology. "Vessels of Earth, your approach is acknowledged. We confess considerable surprise at your response to our distress signal. Our stellar cartography indicated your civilization had achieved only primitive space travel. Your presence here defies our assessment." Torres exchanged glances with Dr. Novak before responding. "Sometimes humans defy assessment. We received your message and came to help." A pause followed, longer than communication lag would explain. Finally, "You believe you can assist with a stellar crisis that has confounded our greatest scientific minds. Your confidence is unexpected." "Not confidence," Torres corrected. "Hope, backed by a theory worth testing. Request permission to approach and present our proposal." The Novan ships escorted Earth's fleet toward the 5th planet in the system, a world approximately 1.3 times Earth's size, with swirling aquamarine cloud patterns. As they approached, the true scale of Novan civilization became apparent. Orbital structures encircled the planet, connected by transit lanes buzzing with smaller craft. Even now, with their star destabilizing, their technology demonstrated an elegance humans could only aspire to. The fleet was directed to a massive orbital platform that Admiral Torres suspected normally served some other purpose but had been hastily repurposed as a receiving area for Earth's ships. A delegation of 7 humans transferred to the station for the initial meeting. As the airlock cycled, Dr. Novak muttered, "Remember, no matter how advanced they are, they're the ones who asked for help." The Novans awaiting them stood nearly 7 feet tall with 4 upper limbs and skin that shifted subtly in color like oil on water. Their eyes, 3 per individual, arranged triangularly, blinked vertically. "I am Coordinator Leth," said the central figure. "I have been assigned to evaluate your proposed intervention." The initial exchange was stiff, laden, with the awkwardness of species meeting for the first time under crisis conditions. The humans presented their stellar resonance theory, explaining how targeted energy pulses could potentially redirect and stabilize the harmful radiation cycles. As Dr. Novak outlined the details, the Novan scientist's skin darkened, a reaction the humans would later learn indicated intense concentration. "This approach was considered and dismissed," stated one Novan scientist flatly. "Our models indicated a 97.3% probability of accelerating the stellar decay." "With respect," countered Tanaka, "your models likely assumed certain technological parameters. Our approach is less refined but potentially more adaptable." "Less refined," repeated Coordinator Leth, the translator failing to fully capture the complex tone. "You propose to stabilize a star using technology we would have considered obsolete 3 centuries ago." Admiral Torres stepped forward. "Sometimes the most elegant solution isn't the most obvious one. We're not asking you to trust our technology. We know it's primitive by your standards. We're asking you to trust our perspective." For several moments, the Novans conferred in their own language, a series of clicks and tonal shifts the translators couldn't process. Finally, Coordinator Leth turned back to the human delegation. "Your journey here represents an extraordinary effort from a developing species. This alone merits consideration. You may proceed with a demonstration of your theory under controlled conditions." It wasn't enthusiasm, but it was permission. For now, that would have to be enough. The Novans allocated a small asteroid in the system's outer belt for the human demonstration. If the stellar resonance technology failed catastrophically, damage would be contained. The asteroid, nearly 9 kilometers in diameter, had been fitted with sensors to simulate stellar conditions in miniature. "They're humoring us, Captain," Lee observed as the Perseverance maneuvered into position. "Like adults watching children put on a science fair project." "Then let's give them one hell of a science fair project," Tanaka replied, finalizing the calibrations on the resonance device deployed for the test. The demonstration would use a single device, a risk, given that the full-scale plan required synchronized deployment of all 12. But Admiral Torres had insisted on transparency. The Novans needed to see exactly how the technology worked before they'd allow deployment near their increasingly unstable star. A small delegation of Novan scientists observed from a safe distance as the human team initiated the sequence. The resonance device pulsed, emitting precisely calibrated energy waves designed to interact with and redirect radiation patterns. For 13 minutes, nothing appeared to happen. The Novan observers shifted restlessly, their skin cycling through color patterns the humans couldn't interpret. Then the sensors began registering changes. Subtle at first, alterations in the test field's radiation dispersion that the Novan's instruments detected before the humans could. The patterns shifted, chaotic energy gradually channeling into more predictable flows. "It's working," breathed Dr. Novak, watching the data stream across his monitors. Exactly as the simulations predicted. Then, without warning, the resonance device experienced a power surge. Alarms blared throughout the Perseverance as energy readings spiked dangerously. "Containment field fluctuating," called a technician. "The asteroid's mineral composition is amplifying the resonance effect." Tanaka's fingers flew across her console, implementing emergency protocols. "We need to shut it down before—" The explosion was small by cosmic standards, but spectacular enough to temporarily blind the observation instruments. When visuals restored, a portion of the asteroid had been reduced to scattered debris, the resonance device destroyed. Silence fell across the command deck of the Perseverance. In the background, communications channels filled with concerned Novan chatter. Admiral Torres straightened her shoulders and opened a channel to the Novan observation vessel. "This is Admiral Torres. As you witnessed, we experienced an unexpected interaction with the asteroid's composition. This was not a failure of the theory, but an implementation issue we can address." The response came immediately. "Admiral, Coordinator Leth requests your delegation return to the orbital platform for consultation. Immediately." Back at the platform, the atmosphere had shifted palpably. Where before there had been skeptical curiosity, Now the Novans radiated what the humans could only interpret as alarm. "Your demonstration nearly destroyed the test site," stated Coordinator Leth without preamble. Attempting Dr. Novak stepped forward. The principle was proven correct before the containment failure. The energy patterns responded exactly as our theory predicted. "For approximately 12 minutes, countered a Novan scientist. "Before losing control." Tanaka nodded, unfazed. "Yes. And now we know why. The crystalline structures in the asteroid amplified the resonance effect, something we couldn't have predicted without testing. This is how science works. We learn, we adjust, we improve. We don't have time for your species' trial and error." "Approach," said Coordinator Leth, colors shifting rapidly across their skin. "Our latest models give us 74 days before radiation levels make planetary evacuation impossible." Admiral Torres looked around at the assembled Novans, reading their body language as best she could. "Then we have 74 days to convince you that humanity's approach, while perhaps less elegant than what you're accustomed to, might be exactly what's needed for this particular problem." For a moment, no one spoke. Then an older Novan stepped forward, skin muted to deep blues and purples. "Perhaps," they said slowly, "we should listen further." The next 38 days became a crucible of cross-species collaboration, unlike anything either civilization had experienced. The orbital platform transformed into a hybrid laboratory where human intuition met Novan precision. In the aftermath of the failed demonstration, a fragile alliance formed around a shared observation. The resonance technology had worked exactly as predicted before the containment failure. The principle was sound. The implementation needed refinement. "Your approach has merit," acknowledged Senior Scientist Vren, the older Novan who had advocated for continued cooperation. "But your technology cannot withstand the energies involved." Tanaka nodded, examining the molecular structure of Novan. Containment alloys displayed on the holographic interface they'd jury-rigged to communicate with human systems. "Then we adapt your containment technology with our resonance theory." This became the pattern of their work, human concepts implemented through Novan technology. The cultural differences created constant friction. Where humans embraced improvisation and acceptable risk, the Novans sought precision and certainty. Where Novans built elaborate safeguards that slowed implementation, humans pushed for faster deployment with fewer redundancies. "We don't have the luxury of perfect solutions," Admiral Torres reminded the joint team during a particularly heated debate. "We have the crisis in front of us." As they worked, the star continued its destabilization. Radiation levels on Nova rose steadily. The planet's automated defense systems, magnificent feats of engineering, struggled against the onslaught. In cities across the planet, Novans began the grim process of prioritizing evacuation, knowing their ships could save only a fraction of their population. 29 days before the point of no return, the joint team finalized a hybrid approach. 12 modified resonance devices, now incorporating Novan containment technology, would deploy at precisely calculated points around the star. Rather than trying to correct the entire stellar instability at once, they would create what Dr. Novak called radiation corridors, areas of relative stability that would give the planet's defense systems time to adapt and strengthen. "It's not a permanent solution," he explained to the Novan Science Council, "but it extends your window from months to years, long enough to implement more comprehensive measures." The council deliberated for what seemed to the humans an excruciating length of time before granting approval. Not because they were fully convinced it would work, but because all alternatives had been exhausted. Deployment day arrived with a tense anticipation that transcended species differences. The 12 Earth vessels, each carrying one modified resonance device, took position around Tau Ceti in a dodecahedral pattern calculated to the millimeter by Novan mathematicians. As final preparations completed, Admiral Torres opened a fleet-wide channel that included both human and Novan participants. "Whatever happens next, remember that this is what intelligence in the universe looks like. Different minds coming together against impossible odds. It has been my life's honor to stand with all of you." The synchronized activation sequence began. Across 12 ships, human crews monitored systems while Novan specialists stood ready to implement emergency protocols if needed. The resonance devices activated simultaneously, sending precisely calibrated energy pulses into the churning stellar mass. For 17 minutes, everything functioned exactly as planned. Energy readings stabilized. Radiation patterns began shifting into more predictable flows. Then, as the humans had come to expect, the unexpected occurred. A massive solar flare erupted directly beneath the Perseverance's position. Warning systems screamed as radiation levels spiked beyond predicted parameters. Containment field holding at 83%, reported Tanaka, her voice steady despite the chaos. The resonance is still active but destabilizing. Across the fleet, similar reports flooded in. The carefully calculated pattern was collapsing as the star fought back against their intervention. "This isn't working," came a Novan voice over the channel. "We need to abort before we trigger a catastrophic reaction." Dr. Novak studied the real-time data flooding his screen, then looked up with sudden clarity. "No, it's working exactly as it should. The star is releasing built-up energy. We need to adjust the resonance pattern to accommodate the flare, not fight against it." What followed was a masterclass in cross-species improvisation. As the star convulsed beneath them, human intuition guided Novan precision. The resonance pattern shifted, no longer attempting to suppress the flare but instead channeling its energy into the radiation corridors they sought to create. For 11 harrowing minutes, the outcome remained uncertain. Ships reported damage from the increased radiation. 2 resonance devices failed completely. Then, gradually, the readings began to stabilize. Not into perfect harmony, but into something the Novan scientists tentatively classified as manageable chaos. As the flare subsided, preliminary readings from Nova confirmed what they dared not hope. Radiation levels had stopped increasing. The first radiation corridor had formed, shielding the planet along one vector. It wasn't victory, not yet. But, for the first time since the crisis began, it was hope. 117 days after the initial intervention, Nova's skies cleared enough to permit direct sunlight again. Children ventured outside without protective gear for the first time in nearly a year, looking up at a star that still burned erratically but no longer threatened imminent extinction. The radiation corridors had held, giving the planet's defense systems time to adapt. When the corridors occasionally destabilized, joint human-Novan teams deployed additional resonance devices to reinforce the pattern. It wasn't the elegant, permanent solution the Novans had initially sought, but it was working, a messy, ongoing process requiring constant attention and adjustment. In many ways, it perfectly symbolized the unexpected alliance that had formed between the two species. On the orbital platform that had become humanity's temporary embassy, Admiral Torres stood beside Coordinator Leth, watching shuttles transfer between Earth and Novan vessels. Cultural exchange programs had begun. Scientific collaborations multiplied daily. 3 human ships had already departed for home, carrying Novan representatives who would establish the first alien embassy on Earth. "Your species continues to confound our understanding," Leth remarked, skin shifting through thoughtful patterns of blue and gold. "By all logical assessment, you should not have been capable of what you accomplished." Torres smiled. "Humanity has a long history of doing things we shouldn't technically be capable of." "Indeed. Our preliminary research into your history reveals a pattern of surviving conditions that should have been extinction-level events. Your planet's climate shifts, your own internal conflicts, biological threats, yet you persist, adapt. We're stubborn that way." "Not merely stubborn," corrected Leth. "There is something in your collective psychology. This capacity to function effectively within chaos rather than requiring its elimination. To see possibility, where we see only limitation." Below them on the operations deck, Tanaka was working, with a group of Novan engineers, gesturing animatedly as they discussed modifications to Earth's ships for the journey home. Using elements of Novan technology, the return trip would take weeks instead of months. "We've transmitted your achievements to the Galactic Council," continued Leth, referring to an alliance of spacefaring civilizations that humanity had been unaware of until recently. "They are recalibrating their assessment of Earth." "Does that mean we get an invitation to join?" Torres asked. "Eventually, perhaps. For now, they've granted observer status, unprecedented for a civilization at your development stage. Several Council species have already requested permission to establish contact with Earth. Dr. Novak joined them, carrying a data tablet displaying the latest stellar readings. The third radiation corridor is fully stabilized. The Novan science team 30 years instead of extinction, mused Leth. From a species we had classified as pre-emergent. The Council does not easily admit being wrong, Admiral, but in humanity's case, they have acknowledged a significant miscalculation. Torres turned to face the Novan coordinator directly. What exactly did they miscalculate? The metrics of advancement. For millennia, the Council has measured civilizational development through technological achievement alone. Your species has demonstrated that other factors may be equally significant. Later that evening, as the human and Novan teams gathered for a formal ceremony commemorating their collaboration, Captain Lee raised a glass in toast. To the universe's greatest ally, necessity. May it continue driving innovation across the stars. As the gathering dispersed, Dr. Ellis fell into step beside Admiral Torres. I've been studying their historical and psychological records, what they've been willing to share. Know what I found most interesting? What's that? They've never known existential threat. Their history shows steady, uninterrupted development. No mass extinctions, no global wars, no civilization-threatening climate shifts. Torres considered this. So they never needed to learn crisis adaptation. Exactly. Their advancement came through careful, methodical progress. Ours came through surviving what should have killed us, again and again. As they watched Earth's remaining ships prepare for departure, Torres reflected on humanity's new place in a wider cosmos. Not the most technologically advanced species, perhaps not even close, but possessing something equally valuable. The hard-won wisdom of survivors. The universe, it seemed, needed both kinds of intelligence. The careful planners and the crisis improvisers. The elegant solution finders and the chaos navigators. The next 30 years would see humanity stepping onto the galactic stage, not as conquerors or supplicants, but as partners bringing a unique perspective forged in Earth's crucible of challenge and response. And across the stars, other distress calls would be answered.